How's it going, guys? It's the Pixelated Pumpkin, and this is the Soul Harvester, made by Techie Design and sold exclusively through Haunted Hill Farm. If you want to purchase this thing, please use my link in the description below. A full demo of this will be at the end of the video, but for now, let me tell you why I think this is the best witch animatronic ever made.
There's a chance to die.
All right, let's start off with the design of the witch herself. And of course, let's take a look at that ugly mug right there. Holy crap, that is one scary and very, very frightening face. I mean, seriously, this thing could give you nightmares. I love the absolutely gaping mouth there. Of course, you have to have the fan so she could suck up the fog. We'll talk about that more later though. But the face itself is so freaky looking. I mean, the design and detailing here is very good. I think especially at night when she has all of her lights on her, that's when it really stands out. But the blindfold is a really, really nice addition too. It's super weird, but also super, super scary. And I think makes this witch character really, really interesting for sure. Of course, the rest of her body is pretty simply clothed. She has this little vest here, I guess you could say, and some creepy cloth to adorn her with, but it really makes some nice detailing. And how can we forget her massive, massive hands? Look how scary these things are. The fingernails are really freaky, and I especially love the red fingertips here. That's a weird addition, but I think it works really well, and honestly makes this prop pretty gross looking. Of course, on her other hand, she's holding the book. And it is very thin and flimsy, as you could see, but that's okay because it's really just meant to have these two lights on it. We'll talk more about the lighting later. But as for the design on the book itself, I think it's really good. This sort of witchcraft symbol here that has this sort of green glowing effect to it looks really awesome. It's like almost like a pentagram of sorts, but it has like this weird witchcraft symbols going on. Really cool. And then on the cover of it, it's pretty simple. There's no words or anything. Just this little skull design here with some, I guess, leather-backed sort of texture going on. It's all right. And at the top of the witch, how can I forget the classic witch hat? This is great. I like the creepy cloth on it, and I sort of like how it forms as well. You have the, you know, it's obviously, you don't have to do it yourself. It all comes filled like this, which is nice. And she's a huge, huge character. I was not expecting her to be this tall, but she at her tallest point is probably around 6.5 feet tall. She's a very, very large one for sure. Much larger than I was initially expecting. So she has a very, very big presence to her. She sort of has this giganticism, this unreal size, which I think definitely works in the prop's favor here. It makes her really, really scary, especially when this poor little kid is looking directly up at her and she comes down to suck his soul. As for the kid himself, I think he is pretty well detailed. Face on him is very, very sort of scared looking. I like that. Of course, he does spit the fog out of his mouth and she sucks it up. Again, we'll talk more about that later. But I do like how his face looks. I think it's a nice enough sculpt, and his eyes are really creepy as well with the way they light up. The clothing, I like the little outfit they gave him with, I guess, like he's wearing a sweater and a collared shirt there. That looks nice. And then he just has his pants and shoes. Not too much to say. I think it's really, really interesting how this prop is set up. We've seen nothing like this before, where you have two separate characters and they sort of interact with each other. There have been a few props like that, but not exactly like this. And I think it works very, very well. Of course, we had the Harvester of Souls at Spirit Halloween in 2020, which was the same sort of concept that used this fog-sucking element, which I still am blown away by. I think it works even better here. But you had that character lift up the girl to his mouth. Instead, this one bends down, and it's, again, two separate characters, which I think is really interesting, and once again, works even better than that original soul-sucking prop did. All right, so overall, the design of this one is phenomenal. It is truly embodying the scariness of Halloween to its fullest extent. We really don't see too many horrific animatronics anymore, not just scary horrific, and this one is for sure horrific. It doesn't need to get that horrificness with blood or gore, rather just the scariness of the design of the character. And I would say the concept going on here too is very scary. So it's a perfectly executed witch prop in my opinion, and easily my new favorite witch prop of all time. I'm not just saying that because I have this thing, I seriously mean it. There is not another witch prop that can hold a candle to this one. And I'm very, very happy because I think witches can be done so awesome, and this is the prime example of that. I love scary Halloween animatronics, and this one's design is nothing short of horrific. So for the design of this one, I'm giving it a thumbs up, A+. It's perfect in my opinion. Oh, Next, let's talk about the animation on this one. And it is very simple, but we're gonna include, of course, the fog blowing as well. As you just saw, she leans down to the boy to suck his soul out of his body. The leaning animation is pretty cool. As you can see with this arm, it sort of moves, which I think is interesting, having a moving arm as well, which it's not a separate motor. It all sort of works in tandem with her going back up and down. So that's pretty nice that there's some movement to that arm there. I do appreciate that. But in terms of the bending down motion, I think it's fine. It's much more of a complicated mechanism than you would think it would be, but that's all right. It looks good, it works well. In terms of the actual mechanical components of this prop and that animation, it's fantastic. And that's really technically the only mechanical thing she has to offer other than the fan in her mouth. But in terms of the fog effect here, this is fantastic. Seriously, a lot of it has to do with the concept here, but the way the kid spits the fog out of his mouth as if it is his soul is amazing, and having the witch suck it up with her mouth is awesome. Once again, this isn't the first time we've seen this done. All the way back in 2020, we had the Harvester of Souls, but it is so refreshing to see this animation and this concept done again, and I think it is the most clever thing they've ever done with fog on a Halloween animatronic. It truly stands the test of time as one of the coolest and most clever and honestly most jaw-dropping sort of concepts you could do with an animatronic. And I think it genuinely looks phenomenal. So overall, for the animation, if we're counting the fog in that as well, it is pretty much flawless, I would say. Of course, the leaning down and stuff is very simple. Nothing else really moves on this one. But I think the fog is enough to carry this animatronic. Honestly, this thing could have been a static and I would have been okay with that. It didn't even have to move up and down, but I think it's definitely appreciated and welcome that it's here for sure. So overall, the animation is awesome, and especially the awesome fog effect. So next up, let's talk about the lighting and phrases. So as you can see in all these nighttime shots I've done, the lighting on this one is nothing short of phenomenal. Seriously, I am not sugarcoating it when I'm saying this is probably the best lighting I've ever seen on an animatronic, period. There's not been a single animatronic before this one that literally lights its entire body up. Not like with it going through it or on the inside, but it basically has a spotlight built in to shine light on what's happening with the animatronic. And I think that is amazing. Of course, you have the book there with the lights on it. The green and red light work really well, and I like how they sort of switch off and activate as she goes through what she's saying, which is really, really clever and really, really cool. And once again, I don't think there's ever been a single animatronic that's had lighting quite like this, where it's able to basically give itself its own spotlight. It spares you some money having to get a light for it in your display. It has a light built in, which is just amazing. I think the way they executed it is honestly perfect. So the lighting is phenomenal. Seriously, some of the best lighting we've ever seen on an animatronic. But how about the phrases? My only complaint with the phrases is that her voice does kind of sound like a chipmunk a little bit, like Alvin and the Chipmunks, I would say. It is a little squeaky and a little bit high-pitched sounding, but I still think it is a good witch voice, and the phrases are freaking scary. I think Techie does a phenomenal job at coming up with voice lines for their animatronics that really fit the characters, and honestly do a little bit of story building as well with these different gigantic scary characters. And I think the voice lines on this one are phenomenal and very scary, especially when you hear the little kid crying and screaming for his life. That is horrific, and that is something I absolutely love. So overall, the phrases, I think maybe they could have chosen a little bit more of a scary voice for the witch, a little bit scarier sounding, but at the end of the day, I still think it is really, really good. All right, now that we talked about all the design elements of this one, and I've determined that they are pretty much perfect and ultra scary, let's talk about some details that you guys are gonna wanna know about this animatronic. She retails for $350, which is very steep, but honestly worth it for this one. You are getting the greatest witch animatronic of all time, and one of the coolest animatronics in general. Seriously, this thing shot right up to one of my favorite animatronics ever. Like, that's how good I think this thing is. Anyways, I think $350, pretty fair price, honestly, for this thing. It does not come included with the fog machine though, so thank you to Haunted Hill Farm for providing me with the fog machine for this video. You could find fog machines on their website to purchase, which is very cool, of course. I love the little skeleton design there. Anyways, this video isn't about the fog machine, it's about this thing. It's IR sensor activated, so you do have that IR sensor right here. that, you know, when somebody walks past, then it will activate the prop, which I think is really nice. And as for the quality, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit concerned with her bending down animation. She is starting to make a few creaking sounds and stuff, but I think that is normal for the most part for an animatronic this size. She does fill up with fog. Obviously, all that fog has to go somewhere. So she does fill up with fog. So maybe the condensation from the fog is kind of creating a sort of slipperiness in there, I guess. But obviously, Techie has made it so that will be fine. So I would trust the quality on this one. Techie's been known to deliver some very high quality props, so I don't think you should worry about it. So overall, I think in terms of the extra sort of details I just mentioned, I think everything is good, and I think you're getting a good deal here for sure. With all that said and done, let me give you my final verdict on the Soul Harvester.
Little child.
So overall, the Soul Harvester is literally the best witch animatronic ever made. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was sent this by Haunted Hill Farm, but really, I'm not gonna let that influence my opinion at all. This is literally the greatest witch animatronic ever made. I love scary stuff, and this is the definition of scary. This is perhaps one of the scariest Halloween animatronics currently on the market. I think they just blew it out of the water. I'm actually terrified by this thing. And if you wanna give your trick-or-treaters nightmares, this is the prop to buy, okay? I know some people like me have a sick sense of humor like that, and I think this is the perfect prop for something like that. So overall, I highly recommend it. Now, before we get to the demo, please be sure to like, subscribe, and tell me what you think of the Soul Harvester in the comments below. And remember to use my link in the description below to purchase this thing. But now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let's take a look at the full demo of the Soul Harvester.
One last gasp from your frail little face. One more soul in my wicked embrace. But one payment for this tour. Deserves a chance to fly, and everybody deserves a chance to give me your life and slip into dark dreams.